Chers participants,
Dear participants, we are going to start. I hope you've had an opportunity to rest. Today we have a very busy day before us. It's our last day as a committee of the whole to finish all our documents. I would beg your indulgence and your flexibility so that we can cover all the documents that we have before us. I'm going to give the floor to the Secretariat for some announcements.
Good morning. I have an announcement coming from the host government about what's happening at the lunchtime today. The only technical visit remaining is the tree planting over the lunchtime. Buses will be provided from here, leaving at 1 p.m. The visit to the Pantanal Biopark will not take place. After the tree planting, all delegates will be brought back here. That's where the bus is coming. Thank you.
merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, Ms. Melanie. So we will continue our work and we will start with the working group report. So I would call on the chair of the budget working group to report back to us. Thank you. United Kingdom.
Budget Working Group met yesterday, and I'm very happy to announce that we successfully concluded our work. The group reached agreement on the budget for the next triennium, and the draft resolution is now clean. The agreed budget will ensure that the CMS Secretariat can continue to deliver effectively on the mandate provided by parties, enabling the convention and continue advancing our shared objectives for the conservation of migratory species. I'd like to express my sincere thanks to all parties for their constructive engagement and spirit of collaboration throughout our discussions. I would also like to thank the parties who joined our discussions yesterday, helping to ensure that the views of more regions were considered as we finalized our work. Finally, I would like to extend my deep appreciation to the Secretariat for their excellent support to the group and for their hard work across the week. Thank you, Chair.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, United Kingdom. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank all the members of the group for the work that has been carried out, and we certainly need good news. Thank you very much. So we have heard that the working group has finished all of its work. That is excellent news. And now I'll give the floor to the chair of the aquatic working group.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yesterday, the Aquatic Working Group met at lunchtime and in the evening, and we had very productive discussions and finalised all remaining items on the aquatic agenda. This included 25.3.3, Conserving Seamount Ecosystems, 25.4.1, Conservation Priorities for Cetaceans, 25.6.1, Freshwater Fish, and 25.6.2, the European eel. The CRPs for all of these documents have been finalised in the working group for consideration in the Committee of the Whole and are available online. We'd like to thank all present in the working group for their constructive discussions, which certainly made my job of chairing it a hell of a lot easier. And I'd also like to give particular thanks to the members of the Secretariat that for many years now have been supporting the work of the Aquatic Working Group, and I'm going to name them in particular. Heidi, Jenny, Andrea and Dan did a fantastic job of making sure we got through our agenda, and I'm very grateful for their ongoing support. Thank you very much.
Merci.
Thank you very much to our councillor. And I'd like to thank all members of the Aquatic Working Group for the progress made. And I'm very happy to hear that the group has finished all of the items that was under their program. And I hope that the remaining groups will not be an exception. Now I give the floor to the Avian Working Group Chair.
The Avian Working Group has concluded all of its business. All avian documents of the agenda items 26.1 to 26.8 have been discussed, and all relevant CRPs have been prepared. The CRPs are all recommended by the Committee of the Whole to the plenary yesterday and the day before, except CRP 26.3.1 Flyways, which is on the agenda for today. The chairs, Stephen Garnett and myself, and the Secretariat would like to thank all participants in the Avian Working Group for the active participation, valuable inputs, and graciousness and willingness to find common ground during discussions. I'd also like to take the opportunity to thank the Secretariat for all of its wonderful support. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Merci.
Thank you very much. So I understand you've made great progress, but there's still 26.3.1 that is outstanding. Okay. Thank you very much. I hope that we have the CRP, which is going to be reviewed, and I hope we will make rapid progress on that matter as well. Thank you very much. I'd like to thank all the members of this working group, and I now move to the chair of the Cross-Cutting Issues Working Group.
Thank you, Chair. The Cross-Cutting Working Group met yesterday lunchtime and evening to discuss document 14.3 on resource mobilisation. I'm very pleased to say that we now have agreed text, and the CRP is available as 14.3 Rev 1. I'm aware that this finalised text will have implications for bracketed text in other documents, including 28.5 on wildlife health and 15 on the Samarkand Strategic Plan Migratory Species. I would wish to express my sincere thanks to the Secretariat for excellent support and to the members of the working group for their willingness to find compromise and with good collaborative spirit. Thank you, Chair.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, Madam. I'm delighted to learn that the group has been able to consider all of the items assigned to it. I thank you and all of the members of the group. Now, may I invite the Committee of the Whole to resume the consideration of the conference room papers. Please, could we have the list of CRPs displayed on the screen?
Je donne la parole au...
I give the floor to the Secretariat.
To take this morning, the top half of the documents are the ones that were scheduled for yesterday afternoon, but were pushed forward until this morning. The lower group, starting with Flyways, is the group that we announced yesterday afternoon would be taken this morning, as requested. If we can move to the next slide. These are documents mostly coming from the Aquatic Working Group, but one cross-cutting, that were finalised last night. They're all online as of this morning. We plan to take these in the afternoon session. And then if we go to the next slide, these are the documents that were just mentioned by the chair of the Cross-Cutting Working Group. 14.3, resource mobilisation. and then the strategic plan, wildlife health, insect decline, and bycatch, which we understand are all have related issues, and that's why we will take them together. And then finally, of course, we have the budget, 14.2. Thank you. So if we could go back to the slide for the AM, please.
Merci beaucoup.
I thank Ms. Melanie for this introduction. We shall now move on to the consideration of these CRPs. And may I kindly urge you to be as concise as possible in your statements, and if there are amendments, please ensure that they really are necessary, because these documents for consideration today have already been subject to lengthy consultations, discussions in the room. They have been revised. So I consider that they are at a very late stage in terms of finalization. So I really do hope that if there are any amendments, they really are ones that you consider entirely necessary. And otherwise, I hope that we will be able to adopt CRPs as they stand. We begin by CRP 25.2.2 on underwater noise. I see no request for the floor. Norway.
The CRP we're currently discussing, does it have the draft decision 15 AAB removed? There was some discussion on that, and I apologize for not having bracketed that text in our working group meeting on Thursday. It's not always easy to see exactly what will be approved at the national level, but I believe there could be some discussions around that. Thank you. Short discussions. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, Norway. I give the floor to the Secretariat.
As we did not consider the CRP properly yesterday, it was not revised yet. So I would need your instructions on what you would like to see in terms of changes, and then we can, if they're easy, implement them and just put forward a revised version to the plenary. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup. La Norvège.
Thank you. Norway?
It's fairly simple on our side. We would then suggest that the draft decision 15AA.B is taken out. Simply, it couldn't be approved at the national level. And then to come back to that at a later stage where we can allow for more discussions before the COP. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, la Norvège.
I thank Norway. Brazil.
Brazil would like to support Norway in its demand for deleting para 15AAB, and we also like to delete para 15BBB, which Chile brought yesterday, and we supported. I think we agreed yesterday that this para would also be deleted. Thank you very much.
Merci.
Thank you very much, Brazil. The European Union.
Thank you, Chair. And we would come back to this yesterday, and in the interest of time, we can agree to the deletion of these paragraphs. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much to the European Union. Does the Committee of the Whole agree to the amendments as proposed by Norway and Brazil, as well as Chile?
Je vois pas.
I see no objections. I therefore request the Secretariat revise the CRP in light of the amendments which have just been raised and to send the revised document directly to the COP for approval. It is so decided. Let us now move on to the next item, CRP 25.3.1, Priorities for Area-Based Conservation of Marine Migratory Species. The floor is open.
Je donne la parole.
I give the floor to the COP-appointed councillor.
If my comment yesterday about preamble paragraph 2 was taken into account with regards to changing the IUCN red list status for marine turtles? If it's okay, I'd like to read it again. Yeah.
Oui, madame.
Yes, please.
Species of marine turtles are included on CMS Appendices 1 and 2 and CITES Appendix 1, and that 5 of these are globally listed as vulnerable, endangered, or critically endangered on the International Union for Conservation of Nature, IUCN Red List of Threatened Species, with the remaining 2 categorized as least concern and data deficient. Thank you, Chair.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you to the COP-appointed councillor. IUCN, you have the floor. Thank you.
At the moment, the document in paragraph 14, the first time it mentioned ecologically or biologically significant, and there's a marine, the word marine areas missing. We need to add the marine, and then the paragraph below as well. So you just need to have the word marine. So the whole phrase would be ecologically or biologically significant marine areas. So you just add the word marine for the subsequent paragraphs below as well. That's all. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, IUCN. Australia has the floor.
Councillor for Marine Fish. This is a simple factual update in preambular paragraph 2 that recognises the change in the conservation status that has occurred since this was first drafted. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Australia. Is the proposal made by the IUCN supported by the committee? Does the committee agree to the proposal? Ecuador. Thank you very much, Chair. We simply wish to support the proposal made by the IUCN. Thank you very much, Ecuador. Does the committee agree to the changes that have just been made to the document? Are there any objections? I see none. I therefore request the Secretariat incorporate these amendments to the revised document, which shall be sent to the COP for final adoption. I see no objections. It is so decided. Let us now move on to CRP 25.3.2 on vessel strikes. The floor is open.
Je vois pas de demande de parole.
I see no request for the floor on this. May I take it that the committee agrees to send this document directly to the COP for final adoption? It is so decided. Let us now move on to the following item, CRP 28.1/Rev 1, on illegal and unsustainable taking of migratory species. The floor is open.
L'Union européenne.
The European Union has the floor.
We have one comment on this document on 28.1 Rev 1, which is in paragraph 16, where the language now says urges that parties and relevant funding agencies, etc. And we believe that we would like to go back to a softer wording, saying encourages parties, etc. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup.
I thank the European Union. Are there any reactions to this proposal in the room? May I take it that the European Union's proposal is acceptable to you? I take it that no one requesting the floor implies that you are in agreement. I therefore request that the Secretariat integrate that comment. Brazil.
I believe that the verb was more suitable for this paragraph because it talks about something that we are discussing in other documents related to funding of activities. We think this is a verb that could actually be very important for the implementation of this resolution. So we don't understand exactly what are the reasoning behind the suggestion from the EU, and would ask for the EU to be flexible on this, considering all the discussions that we are currently having on trying to give for this convention the discussion on funding and resource mobilization, the adequate role that we are giving in this COP. So if the EU could be flexible on this, we would really appreciate. Thank you very much.
Merci beaucoup.
I thank Brazil. I understand that you do not agree with the proposal of the European Union. The European Union, could you react to what has just been said by Brazil?
On these issues, but maybe we can find some soft wording that would accommodate both our concerns. But for the moment, we would like to stick to encourages. Thank you.
Is there perhaps a wording that could strike a balance between urges and encourages?
Alors, comment nous allons...
How shall we move forward on this? Perhaps the European Union and Brazil could hold consultations on this, and in the meantime we could move on to the following CRP so as to leave you time to resolve this amongst yourselves, but we do need to address this morning. So perhaps I can invite you to consult among yourselves, and we shall come back to this document later on this morning. Now, let us move on to CRP 26.3.1 on flyways.
Je vois pas.
I see no request for the floor. Ecuador. Thank you very much. We wish to thank parties for the excellent work undertaken in the working group, and we wish to express our support for the adoption of the draft decision 15BB to the Americas. We welcome the initiative for the Americas flyways. Our continent requires an institutional framework which will strengthen existing efforts and foster technical cooperation among parties, non-parties, and technical stakeholders across the hemisphere. We reiterate our entire collaboration and support for the consolidation of this initiative to be adopted at the COP15. We wish to emphatically support this draft decision, and our delegation has been actively promoting it as we consider that it is essential to have a mandate for the development of the multi-species action plan for the vultures of Africa. The vultures play an irreplaceable ecological role, but they face transboundary threats that require urgent international cooperation. We invite all parties of the Americas range states to consolidate their efforts under this initiative and to support future efforts to protect vultures and other migratory birds. Thank you. Thank you very much, Ecuador. The European Union has the floor.
We can solve both issues on the previous CRP and this one, because in paragraph 2 of this resolution, we would like to change encourages to urges. And I think that there will be some opposition on that text here. So maybe we can offer that if it would be acceptable to put strongly encourages in this part rather than just encourages, we could maybe see if strongly encourages would also be a solution for the previous CRP, where we have the standoff between urges and encourages. So we would offer to maybe consider that as a solution for both CRPs. And then I have one more comment on this document, which is in paragraph 16, where the EU intervention that was made earlier seems to be not entirely correctly reflected, and that is on 3 small c ocean energy, where we had suggested to say to support avoiding protected areas, and it now reads to avoid protected areas. So if that can be corrected, that was the agreement in the room. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup.
I thank the European Union. Now, I shall take the first comment, which was to use strongly encourages instead of encourages. Are there any reactions from the committee? Brazil.
Very much, Mr. Chair. Just a point of clarification, exactly where the proposal of changing encourage to strongly encourage is in this text of this resolution. I lost that part. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, Brazil. The European Union, could you perhaps clarify where exactly this amendment would be introduced? Where would you like to introduce strongly encourages to this resolution?
To you and to the committee, we'll be coming back to you. Thank you. We have no comments on 26.3.1.
Merci beaucoup.
I thank the European Union. I see no request for the floor. May I take it then that the Committee of the Whole adopts this document as it stands and that it shall be submitted to the COP for final adoption? I see no objections. It is so decided. The document shall be submitted to the COP for final adoption. Now, let us move on to CRP 28.3, Transfrontier Conservation Areas. The floor is now open.
Je ne vois pas de demande de parole.
I see no request for the floor. May I take it that the committee agrees to send this document to the COP for final adoption? I see no request for the floor. It is so decided. CRP 28.3 on transfrontier conservation areas shall be submitted to the COP for final adoption. Now, moving on to CRP 28.11/Rev1 on renewable energy. The floor is open.
Le Royaume-Uni.
The United Kingdom.
Thank you, Chair. The UK would just like to support the earlier intervention by the European Union in relation to this document. This relates to operative paragraph 3, little c, which should read ocean energy to support avoiding protected areas. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you to the UK. The European Union has the floor.
By supporting the UK intervention and also refer to paragraph 2, which currently reads, encourages parties and non-parties to implement these voluntary guidelines. And there EU would like to see urges parties and non-parties in paragraph 2. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, l'Union européenne.
I thank the European Union. Do the parties agree? Brazil.
We had this discussion before. We had asked to keep the encourages here, so position of Brazil will be to keep the encourages in paragraph 2 of this document. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, le Brésil.
Thank you, Brazil. Are there any further requests for the floor? Senegal. Could we perhaps use strongly encourages? Thank you, Senegal, for your proposal. The European Union.
Maybe we can find an agreement with Brazil on the document on 28.1, where we also have this discussion between urges and encourages, but in the other direction. So maybe on both of the paragraphs, on paragraph 2 here and on the one in 28.1, we can come to a common understanding. You already asked us to consult with Brazil on the previous point. Maybe we can do the same on this one and see if we can solve them together. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, l'Union européenne.
Thank you very much to the European Union. Brazil, any reactions?
Merci beaucoup, le Brésil.
Thank you very much, Brazil.
Le Brésil,
Brazil.
To accept urges in the document on renewable energy, but we keep the urges on paragraph 16 of document on the legal sustainable trade. Thank you.
merci beaucoup, le Brésil.
Thank you very much, Brazil. European Union.
Thank you, Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will have to consult on that one and come back to you if that's all right. Thank you. I mean, we thank Brazil for the flexibility and hope we can find a solution for this together. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, l'Union européenne.
Thank you very much, European Union. Brazil.
Important that all delegations try to exercise their maximum flexibility here in the COW so that we can clean as many documents as we can in one go. So I would reiterate Brazil's ask to other delegations to meet right now in this room the necessary flexibility for us to clean the documents. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Brazil. Yes, I had raised that at the beginning of our session. We must have a spirit of collaboration, flexibility, so that we can finish our work. So I encourage and urge Brazil, the European Union, to meet and agree so that we can finish this document rapidly. Thank you.
À présent, je vous propose.
So I suggest we move to the next CRP while we wait to hear back from Brazil and the European Union. I now call on the committee to review CRP 30.1, guidelines for preparing and assessing proposals for the amendment of CMS appendices. The floor is open.
Je vois pas de demande de parole.
I do not see any request for the floor. Does that mean that the committee is in agreement to send a CRP 30.1 to the COP for final adoption? I see no objection. It is so decided. It will be sent to the COP for final adoption. Thank you. Now I invite you to move to CRP 25.3.3, Distinguished delegates and participants, this morning when we set out today's agenda and working program, it was suggested that we look at these documents this afternoon, but I would like to ask for your agreement to allow us to continue and discuss these CRPs, even if they had been planned for the afternoon. I see no comment, so I consider that The delegates are willing and ready to review and revise these documents. Thank you. Now we will move to CRP 25.3.3, Conserving Seamount Ecosystems. The floor is open.
Je vois pas de demande.
I see no request for the floor. Does that mean that the committee agrees with sending the document as it is to the COP for final adoption? I see no objections. It is so decided. The document will be sent to the COP for final adoption. Now I would invite you to look at CRP 25.4.1, Conservation Priorities for Cetaceans. The floor is open.
Je vois pas de demande de parole.
I see no request for the floor. Do I take it that the committee agrees to send the document to COP for final adoption? I see no objections. It is so decided. Document 25.4.1 on conservation priorities for cetaceans shall be submitted to the COP for final adoption. Now I call on the committee to consider 25.6.1 freshwater fish. The floor is open.
Je vois pas de.
I see no request for the floor. So I take it that the committee is in agreement to submit the document as it is to the COP for final adoption. It is so decided. The document CRP 25.6.1, freshwater fish, shall be submitted to COP for final adoption. Now I call on the committee to consider document CRP 25.6.2, European eel. The floor is open.
Je vois pas de demande de parole.
I see no request for the floor. So I understand that the committee is in agreement with submitting CRP 25.6.2 on European eel to the COP for final adoption. I see no objections. It is so decided, and the document shall be submitted to COP for final adoption. Now I call on the committee to look at CRP 29.4, species that meet the criteria for listing on CMS appendices. The floor is open.
Je vois pas de
I do not see any request for the floor. So that means that the committee agrees to submit CRP 29.4 to COP for adoption. I see no objections. It is so decided. CRP will be sent to the COP for final adoption. Now I call on you to move to review. I ask the technical team to put the third slide on the screen, please. Now we will look at CRP 14.3, resource mobilization. The floor is open.
Je ne vois pas de demande de parole.
I see no request for the floor. So I understand that the committee is in agreement with submitting CRP 14.3 on resource mobilization to COP for final adoption. I see no objections. It is so decided, and the document will be submitted to COP for final adoption. Now, United Kingdom, you have the floor.
We understand that there was agreement between parties that this document could progress, and the understanding that brackets in some of the following documents and the language within those would be removed. Thank you.
Merci, le Royaume-Uni.
Thank you, United Kingdom. Brazil.
UK, and I assume that as this COW take action on CRPs 15 and 28.5, we're going to be in a position to delete the text that's currently bracketed in these texts and pave way for consensual adoption. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup,
Thank you, Brazil. Brazil, your microphone is on.
Can the technicians turn off the chair's microphone?
That's interesting.
Accordez-nous un instant, s'il vous plaît.
Please give us one moment. We just have a minor technical issue to resolve.
Don't touch it. It makes. Can't we continue then with the mic on? You can continue. We'll fix it. If the technicians could now make sure the chair could turn on his mic. Does it work? No.
En attendant,
Whilst we wait, we can continue. I see there's a discussion underway on CRP 14.3. Brazil, you have the floor.
For clarity, I understood the committee took action on CRP 14.3 and agreed to send it to plenary. So I would assume that we have concluded our consideration of this agenda item and we are moving to the consideration on CRP 15. Am I correct in my understanding, Chair?
effectivement.
Yes, indeed. But at the point that I was just closing that, we had some requests for the floor, and I had understood that the discussions would be continuing, but I take it and understand that the committee is in agreement with sending the document to the COP for final adoption. It is so decided. Document CRP 14.3 on resource mobilization shall be submitted to the COP for final adoption. Now I call on the meeting to review CRP 15, Samarkand Strategic Plan for Migratory Species 2024 to 2032.
Merci beaucoup.
I thank the technical team. Now we have opened the floor on CRP 15. Brazil, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In CRP 15, as it was sent to the COW, it contains a few brackets. It contains brackets in potential action 4.3.A and in potential action 4.3.D, as well as in the indicators 4.3.4 and 4.3.5. Brazil is of the view that the text contained in these brackets could be deleted, considering that we have just agreed a decision on resource mobilization that reflects the concerns that inspire delegations that introduced the texts that we are now proposing to delete from the current text, and hopefully this paves way for consensual adoption in the COW. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Brazil. European Union, you have the floor.
Very much thank all the parties that participated in the working group to get us to this point. So we have full agreement of what is happening now. We just would like to remind the Secretariat to also check other parts of this document where references are still regarding the actions and the indicators that were just agreed to be deleted by Brazil. I'm not going to read them out, but there's a few there, and we trust the Secretariat to clean that up. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, European Union.
Est-ce que le comité est...
Is the committee in agreement with the proposals from Brazil? South Africa.
We would like to thank all the parties that participated in the working group and the contributions that were made. Also to thank the spirit of cooperation that was expressed in the working group in respect of this item. We do support the decision that is on the table. Thank you.
L'Afrique du Sud.
Thank you, South Africa. I see no further requests for the floor. I consider that the committee is in agreement with Brazil's proposal that the Secretariat will take into account their comments and amendments, and the revised document will be sent to COP for final adoption. It is so decided. Document based on the changes proposed by Brazil shall be sent to the final COP. And I would like to really thank all the state parties who worked within this working group. They did an excellent job. They displayed a spirit of consensus, and I would like us to continue on the same lines. So now I invite the meeting to consider CRP 28.5, Wildlife Health. Brazil, you have the floor.
CRP 28.5, as sent by the working group to the COW, contains in paragraph 16 a text that's bracketed. Along with the same approach that we had in the previous agenda item, Brazil understands that the text currently in brackets can be deleted because the notion that was contained therein has already been covered by our groundbreaking decision on resource mobilization. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Brazil. Does the committee agree with the deletion of text that is in square brackets? I see no objections. It is so decided. And CRP 28, European Union.
For the Brazilian proposal, which we can support, but we also have some other comments on the document, if you allow me.
Of course.
A bit of an issue with one of the preambular paragraphs at the end of the first page, recognizing that some intensive animal farming, etc. At the end of the paragraph, the word phasing out is deleted, and now it says sustainable management and prevention of such forms of animal farming. We cannot support the word sustainable management in there, and we would request that the wording that was there before, the phasing out and prevention, is reinserted. And then we also have some concerns about the paragraph 14 on funding needs. We very much share the sentiment that the decision, the CRP on 14.3, will really take us a step forward with regards to fundraising and with addressing also the special needs faced by developing countries, etc. So we don't disagree with the sentiment. We do have a little bit of a problem for seeing that appearing haphazardly in different decisions and not in others, and it's a bit of a piecemeal approach. So we would suggest to shorten that paragraph in 14 and delete the reference to with special attention to the specific challenges, knowing that this is a horizontal approach now with the decision we adopted with 14.3. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much to the European Union. First of all, I understand that which had been proposed by Brazil receives the agreement of the committee, so we'll remove the text in square brackets. And now I invite the committee to react to European Union's comments. Brazil.
accept the suggestion by the EU to revert the language that was already agreed in the working group and that arrived to the committee without brackets. So we would strongly encourage the exercise of flexibility so that we can adopt the text as was sent by the by the working group to the COW. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Brazil. I turn to the European Union once more. The areas where you wish to insert amendments have already been discussed in the working group. What is your reaction? Are you willing to show flexibility so that we can progress?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. And apologies, we don't want to go back on agreed text in the working group, but to us it wasn't that clear that all of this had been literally agreed upon from the working group. We focused on certain issues, some of this was parked. So if you allow me a little bit of time to consult, we'll come back to you in this morning session still to let you know we'll try to be as flexible as possible on this. Thank you.
D'accord, l'Union européenne.
Thank you, European Union. So, we have two CRPs that are being left pending, including this one. So now, I would ask that we look at CRP 28.8, insect decline. The floor is open. I see no request for the floor. I take it then that the committee is in agreement. The United Kingdom, you have the floor.
This document still contains some language in brackets, and we'd appreciate some clarity on that. Thank you.
Thank you, United Kingdom. The Secretariat has the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Indeed, there are square brackets in one of the preamble paragraph, and the parties should provide us with guidance on which text to retain in this document.
Le Secrétariat, le Brésil.
Thank you, Secretariat. Brazil, you have the floor.
Upon the invitation by the Secretariat to clarify a little bit how we see the text that's presented to this plenary, of course the question before us is if we are going to make a reference to Principle 15 of the Rio Declaration, to the Rio Declaration in its entirety. And Brazil would like to state it very clearly that we would have been in a condition to support an express reference to Principle 15 if, when we were going to take a look at the set of outcomes coming from this COP, we could also have seen reference to other principles of the Rio Declaration. Brazil has been sustaining across conversations, for instance, the relevance of the principle of common but differentiated responsibilities contained in Principle 7, by the way, which was highlighted by President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva in his remarks in the high-level statement the day before the opening of this COP. However, in the conversations in the working groups, whenever delegations from Brazil and other countries from the Global South would raise the principle of common but differentiated responsibilities, we were faced with objections. Objections in terms of pertinence of that one principle, and to our surprise, objections to reference to the Rio Declaration as a whole. Last night, for instance, we heard from one delegation that they feel that the Rio Declaration is not applicable to what we're doing here. From our vantage point, this is very disturbing, Mr. Chair, because what we're doing here is a very important part of the environmental dimension of sustainable development. Sustainable development comes as a whole, and if there is one agenda item that makes this very clear, it's precisely insect decline. Because if we lose pollinators, then we are going to have serious challenges regarding food security. So insect decline actually very clearly demonstrates the interlinkages between all three dimensions of sustainable development and shows how migratory species, or how the work that we're doing here in this COP can and is very much related with a broader work on sustainable development, ranging from the Rio Declaration to the Rio +20 outcome document. So Brazil would still prefer a general reference to all principles of the Rio Declaration, but we are not in a position to single out just one principle when we are faced in other texts with an out-front rejection to make reference to other principles individually or, astoundingly, to the Rio Declaration in its entirety. Thank you.
Le Brésil.
Thank you, Brazil. The European Union.
Brazil on this one. We be in a position to delete the reference to recalling the Rio 15 principle and would support keeping recalling the Rio Declaration on Environment and Development. Thank you.
L'Union européenne.
Thank you to the European Union. Brazil.
Mr. Chair, do I understand that we are making a reference in this document to the entire Rio Declaration of Sustainable Development in the preambular part, while at the same time also making a reference to the Rio Principle 15 in its OP 1 item D? Or are we deleting that reference? We make a broader reference to the Rio Declaration in the preambular, which could also be then imported into the resource mobilization conversation. I would like to understand what the offer is, because now it feels that the EU is making a move on one agenda item when this conversation was clearly connected as well with the conversation on resource mobilization. Fine to deal with this in plenary as well, Mr. Chair.
Le Brésil, l'Union européenne, est-ce que...
Thank you, Brazil. Could the European Union please clarify your proposal?
In operational paragraph 1C in this CRP, there is indeed a reference to Principle 15 of the Rio Declaration, which is basically the qualifier to the precautionary approach. Because for us, it's very important that when we speak about the precautionary approach, it is as described in Rio Principle 15 and not in any other way. So that's why to us it's important to keep it there. However, if that is a problem, then we would also be willing to take that entire paragraph out rather than having a reference to the precautionary approach without qualifier. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, the European Union. The United Kingdom has the floor.
Sensitive to the positions of parties on this. Perhaps as a way forward, we could just remove reference to Rio Principle 5 in the operative and also remove the preambular paragraph in its entirety as a potential way forward. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, le Royaume.
I thank the United Kingdom. Brazil, any reaction?
It's been a helpful exchange. Brazil could go along with the way suggested by the UK, but Brazil could also go along with a reference to incorporating Principle 15 in the operative part of this resolution, as long as we also make a reference to the Rio Declaration in the preambular part of this decision and on the decision on resource mobilization. Those are the two pathways that Brazil identifies as acceptable way forward. Thank you.
Je donne la parole.
I give the floor to the European Union.
Brazil is showing a lot of flexibility here, and we would very much like to recognize that. I think the second proposal made, if I understand it well, would be to have the reference as it is in this CRP to recalling the Rio Declaration on Environment and Development, keep operational paragraph 1 as it is, and also have the same preambular paragraph as we have here on the Rio Declaration in CRP 14.3. If I understood that well, then I think we could consider that. Thank you. We would accept that. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup.
I thank the European Union. Brazil.
I believe the EU understood correctly the second pathway that Brazil indicated as acceptable. It would be a matter now for the Committee of the Whole, of course, to agree also to reconsider CRP 14.3 that just procedurally was adopted. So we would have to reopen this immediately after the adoption of insect decline to make sure that we are all on the same page. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup.
I thank Brazil. I gave you the floor just to ensure that the European Union had fully understood your proposal. The United Kingdom has the floor.
These are important and sensitive discussions, but we would have concerns that 14.3 has already been closed and sent to the plenary, is our understanding. We do not understand that that could be reopened, but we would welcome clarity from you, Chair. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, le Royaume.
Thank you to the United Kingdom. Australia has the floor.
On this CRP document, and certainly recognise the importance of what has been discussed and appreciate the flexibility shown by both the EU and Brazil on this matter. We'd also like to thank the UK for their suggestion to simply delete the problematic preambular paragraph and the reference to the Principle 15 of the Rio Declaration in operative paragraph 1C. And Australia would like to support this approach. We would not be comfortable reopening CRP 14.3 when it has just been adopted and sent to the plenary. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup.
I thank Australia. Distinguished delegates and participants. This discussion seems complicated. I need some guidance from the committee in terms of the way forward here. Brazil.
In accordance with Rule 17, paragraph 2 of the Rules of Procedure, it is possible for this Committee of the Whole to reopen consideration of CRP 14.3. Thank you.
Le Brésil.
Thank you, Brazil. Norway.
Australia just now. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup.
I thank Norway. Monaco has the floor. Thank you very much, Chair. We also wish to support the delegation of Australia and Norway in not reopening the document 14.3. Thank you. Thank you, Monaco. Ecuador. Thank you, Chair. Ecuador wishes to support Brazil's position on this. Thank you, Ecuador. Now, perhaps the Secretariat is ready to answer that query. Please just bear with us a few moments.
Chile, à vous la parole.
Chile has the floor. Thank you, Chair. Chile also wishes to express support for Brazil's position on this. Thank you.
Beaucoup le Chili.
Thank you, Chile. I give the floor to the Secretariat now to answer Brazil's query.
Reopening of agenda items, I would like to read Rule 17 on motions to open and reopen debates in conference sessions. So whenever the conference considers a recommendation originating from the Committee of the Whole, where the discussion of a recommendation has been conducted in interpretation, there shall be no further discussions and shall be immediately decided upon. So this is for COP, but since there is no rule specifically on the COW reopening items, the Secretariat is using mutatis mutandis, the rule for the COP, to the committee. That's why I'm reading this paragraph, even though it makes explicit reference to the conference, or the COP. The paragraph that Brazil was referring to is Rule 19.2. However, any representative is seconded by a representative of another party may present a motion for the opening of debate of any recommendation. Permission to speak on the motion for opening the debate shall be granted only to the representative presenting the motion and a seconder, and to a representative of each two parties wishing to speak against, after which the motion shall immediately be put to a vote. A motion to open the debate shall be granted if, on show of hands or a roll call, 2/3 of the representatives present and voting support the motion. While speaking on a motion to open the debate, a representative may not speak on the substance of the recommendation itself. So this is a very long way of saying that if there is a representative asking for a motion to reopen, it has to be seconded, and then the floor will be given also to two representatives against. Then it will be put to a vote, so 2/3 of yes will be needed to support the motion to reopen agenda item 14.3. So this is procedurally, unless consensus is reached otherwise.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, Maria. Brazil has the floor.
In theory, the COW then could resume consideration on CRP 14.3 if it so agrees. So perhaps so that we can understand what the next step is, it would be helpful to hear from our colleagues from the UK, from Norway, and I believe also Australia, whether they would be in principle in favor of adding a reference in a preambular paragraph to the Rio Declaration in the document on resource mobilization. Because if they're objection to that was just procedural, then this is one thing. If their objection to that is a substantive one, then this is a different thing. And we need to understand where we stand before we take any procedural actions in this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Brazil. The United Kingdom has the floor.
There may be a way forward. We understand there was a proposal to delete operative paragraph 3, little c, in its entirety, and there was also a proposal to delete the relevant preambular paragraph in its entirety, and perhaps would welcome views from the room on that proposal. Thank you.
I thank the United Kingdom for this proposal. May I ask for the views of the Committee of the Whole on this proposal by the United Kingdom? What is the position of the Committee of the Whole on this? Australia.
Where we are in our timeline of deliberations, I would support the proposal of the UK to delete those paragraphs referenced. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Australia. Brazil? Could we hear your views on the United Kingdom's proposal?
Indeed, the previous interventions apparently seem to reveal that not all delegations are convinced that we can reaffirm the real principles in these texts. And this is indeed an unfortunate realization for my delegation. Brazil will certainly work in the intersessional period to enhance consideration of a possible draft resolution for COP16 on migratory species and sustainable development. But at this point, we could go along with the suggestion proposed by the UK. Thank you.
Thank you, Brazil, for showing flexibility here. Does the Committee of the Whole agree to the United Kingdom's proposal? I see no objections. It is so decided. The document shall be revised on the basis of the proposal made by the United Kingdom and shall be sent directly to the COP plenary for adoption. Brazil.
Put it on the record that we are deleting from OP1 paragraph C in its entirety, along with the preambular paragraph that currently reads, recalling, bracket, the Rio 15 principle, and then bracket, and then open bracket again, the Rio Declaration on Environment and Development, close bracket. So those are the two pieces of text that would be deleted in entirety. Is that, I see nodding from the Secretariat, so I think my understanding is correct. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brazil. Perhaps the Secretariat could confirm this. The Secretariat confirms this is the case. The United Kingdom has the floor. Can you confirm this? Yes, very well. Thank you very much. Brazil, this confirms what you just raised. Therefore, the Committee of the Whole sends the document after revision to the COP for final adoption by the plenary. I see no objections. It is so decided, and I wish to deeply thank the United Kingdom for the proposal, as well as Brazil for having demonstrated a sense of flexibility. This will greatly help us in moving forward with today's agenda. So this document shall be sent as revised to the COP for final adoption. Now let us move on to CRP 25.1.1, and other fisheries-induced mortality. You have the floor. The floor is open.
Je vois pas de...
I see no request for the floor on this. Brazil.
On the text in paragraph 15, the operative paragraph. So we would propose to delete the first set of brackets and maintain the second set of text, which reads, further encourages parties to utilize the Global Biodiversity Framework Fund, GBFF, under the GEF in providing financial and technical support to the implementation of this resolution. This text is aligned with the resource mobilization text, and I think that the parties which were present in the discussions during the working group would agree with me and the agreement we had during the discussions in that working group. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Brazil. The European Union.
To confirm that that is also our understanding, that we agree on the second part there, on the second text, the second alternative there in that paragraph. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you to the European Union. The United Kingdom.
Understanding, and we strongly support Brazil's suggestion. Thank you.
Merci.
Thank you, the United Kingdom. I see no further requests for the floor. May I take it that the committee supports the proposal made by Brazil? I see no objection to this. The relevant CRP shall be revised on the basis of Brazil's suggestion, and it shall be submitted to the COP for final adoption. It is so decided. I thank you very much. Now, we have CRP 14.2 on our list, but perhaps I could suggest that we come back to the three CRPs which had remained pending. Is the European Union in a position to discuss these three CRPs? So there are three CRPs still pending. CRP 28.1, Rev 1, and 28.11, Rev 1, as well as CRP 28.5.
L'Union européenne, si vous n'êtes
If the European Union is not quite ready, we can move forward with the rest of the agenda in the meantime. Thank you very much. In the interest of time, we have three remaining CRPs open, one on the budget, which we will be looking at later on. So in order to make the best use of our time, I suggest that we come back to our agenda with the consideration of new proposed concerted actions. And I invite the Committee of the Whole to resume our consideration of these items. Yesterday, just a few moments, please, says the Chair.
Distinguished delegates, chers participants.
Distinguished delegates and participants, let us now move on to the consideration of item 31.3.6, the proposal for a concerted action for the sperm whales of the Eastern Tropical Pacific already listed on Appendix 1 and 2 of the Convention. I invite Ms. Heidi from the Secretariat to please introduce this document. You have the floor.
Document 31.3.6 contains a proposal for continuation of the concerted action for sperm whales of the Eastern Tropical Pacific, which was prepared by Red Cachalotes del Pacífico. As already done for their report yesterday, I'm introducing this report on their behalf, or this proposal on their behalf, because they cannot be present here with us. The document was reviewed by the Scientific Council without any revisions having been proposed. This proposal is for the continuation of one of the two concerted actions that are focused on the interplay between culture and conservation to inform management decisions, and it foresees the following three main activity areas: long-term monitoring through sustained cross-national monitoring of Eastern Tropical Pacific sperm whale clans by unifying databases, expanding passive acoustic and photo ID efforts, strengthening stranding response networks, and identifying mortality hotspots and anthropogenic threats. Research collaboration by strengthening of regional collaboration by mobilizing funding, connecting with the BBNJ agreement framework, and sharing updated methods and technologies through coordinated workshops and scientific networks. And awareness and engagement, raising awareness amongst policymakers and the public by developing an action plan that enhances social media presence and promotes citizen science data collection through accessible platforms. The major obstacle to implementation of activities is the lack of financial support for research across range states. This is why this concerted action proposal prioritizes building connections with governmental and non-governmental institutions to ensure resource mobilization to critical areas where knowledge is lacking. Adopting the concerted action will serve to support these efforts. The Conference of the Parties is recommended to accept the proposal. Thank you, Chair.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Madam. The floor is now open. I give the floor to Ocean Care.
Strongly supports the continuation of the concerted action for Eastern Tropical Pacific sperm whales. The highly migratory nature of these cetaceans is shaped by their social behaviour and culture. They face many of the threats addressed by existing and proposed CMS resolutions, including vessel strikes, anthropogenic underwater noise, and marine pollution. The continuation of the concerted action would help to address the knowledge gaps which remain regarding the impact of specific threats on different sperm whale clans. For the sake of brevity, I will note here that Ocean Care also supports the proposals for the Franciscana dolphin and the Lahili bottlenose dolphin concerted actions, which will be addressed in the next two agenda items. Thank you.
Oh, Madame.
Thank you very much. Are there any other requests for the floor? I see none. May I take it that the Committee of the Whole accepts this proposal for a concerted action for the sperm whales of the Eastern Tropical Pacific? I see no objections. It is so decided, and the committee accepts this proposal for concerted action. Distinguished delegates, dear participants, now let us move on to the consideration of item 31.3.7, the proposal for a concerted action for the Franciscana dolphin. May I invite the proponents of this proposal, Argentina, Brazil, or Uruguay, to introduce this document.
Uruguay, you have the floor. Thank you, Chair, distinguished parties. I'm speaking once more on behalf of Argentina, Brazil and Uruguay parties who are honored to present this proposal to renew the concerted action for the Franciscana dolphin. This is a natural evolution and development of a process that has been underway for years. We consider that it provides the necessary institutional framework to scale up the efforts already started. In the interest of time and understanding that we have covered the matters related to the Franciscana yesterday, I will be brief and indicate that this concerted action will give us more in-depth work on that which we've started and will ensure that we have the effective implementation of the appendices. It will help us to build for other species and will strengthen the convention as the efficient forum for this work. We invite the parties to support this not only as a regional support, but also to show that we are reacting in a specific and concrete way on coordinated initiatives and actions. We call for party support for the proposal. Thank you. Thank you very much, Uruguay. I now give the floor to AWIO Basque.
Institute, Fundación Cetus, Humane World for Animals, Pro Wildlife, the Brazilian Humpback Whale Institute, the Brazilian Institute for Nature Conservation, and the International Fund for Animal Welfare express ardent support for the proposed renewal of the concerted action for the Franciscana dolphin. Among the smallest dolphins in the world, the CMS appendices 1 and 2 listed Franciscana are experiencing continued anthropogenic pressures, most notably as a result of fisheries bycatch, but also due to chemical and acoustic pollution, marine debris, climate change, and possibly human or animal consumption. We applaud Argentina, Brazil, and Uruguay for the progress made since the adoption of this concerted action at COP14, as reported in Agenda Item 31.2.8. Yet there is so much work to be done, including working to attain new abundance estimates within Argentina, conducting conservation status assessments for Franciscana management areas, as well as marine protected area-related assessments, and implementing actions to mitigate threats, particularly incidental mortality in fisheries and more generally bycatch. We encourage the persistent cooperation of the three governments, together with academics, administrators, small and large-scale fisheries, NGOs, and relevant MEAs to ensure the successful conservation of this iconic species in its wild habitat. And we note the IWC endorsed Franciscana Conservation Management Plan as a model for regional collaboration. To this end, we urge parties and donors to robustly sustain the continued implementation of this concerted action by supporting its proposed renewal. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Madame.
Thank you very much. I now give the floor to the Dominican Republic. Good morning, Chair. The Dominican Republic would like to express their support for the proposal made by Argentina, Uruguay, and Brazil on the Franciscana dolphin. Thank you, Dominican Republic. Brazil.
We are very proud to be a co-sponsor of this proposition, with which, of course, we fully support. Thank you very much.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Brazil. IUCN.
Of this concerted action as it complements the IWC Conservation Management Plan for this species. We congratulate Argentina, Uruguay, and Brazil for their ongoing efforts to address the high levels of anthropogenic mortality impacting this vulnerable small cetacean. We note that a comprehensive assessment for this species will be conducted by our scientific committee over the next few years, and we'll be happy to share these results when available. to assist with the updating of actions within the concerted action to ensure continued effective coordination between the programs of IWC and CMS. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, IUCN. I see no further requests for the floor. So I take it that the committee approves the adoption of this concerted action. I see no objections. It is so decided. This proposal is approved. I now call on the meeting to look at 31.3.8 on the concerted action for the Lahil bottlenose dolphin, which is already listed on Appendix 1 and 2 of the Convention. I invite Argentina, Brazil, or Uruguay to introduce this document. Uruguay, you have the floor. Thank you very much, Chair. Distinguished delegations relating to this concerted action for the Tursiops truncatus geophyreus. I'm speaking once more on behalf of Brazil, Argentina, and Uruguay to present the proposal for a concerted action for this subspecies. This coastal population of the Southwestern Atlantic has ecological and genetic characteristics that are distinctive. Its restricted distribution and the close association with coastal environments make it particularly vulnerable to interaction with fisheries, degradation of habitat, pollution, and human disturbances. Our proposal is based on three fundamental institutional principles. Common responsibility. Only our three countries have this population, so it's essential that we coordinate. Prevention before restoration. The populations are small and will not tolerate greater levels of mortality. It is urgent, ethical and ecologically relevant that we act now. We need a coherence between conservation and coastal development. The growth of port, tourist and fishing activities means that we have to have informed area planning based on the ecosystems and scientific information. The Scientific Council recommended that it be carried out, and they welcomed the work that has been done. The range states and other interested parties looked at the management plan within the framework so that the concerted action will function in a fully complementary and harmonized way to avoid duplication and to maximize as far as possible the efficiency. It is a policy and political commitment at high level in our country. Our countries have shown the technical sustained capacity that is necessary. Now we're looking to consolidate these efforts and we want to take this management to the level, the political level needed. The conservation of these small and vulnerable populations is proof of the effectiveness of this convention. We call on parties to support this concerted action as an investment in the prevention, regional cooperation and institutional strengthening. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Uruguay. Brazil, you have the floor.
And reaffirms its commitment to a collaborative approach with range countries for the conservation of the Lahil dolphin. The country encourages the continued development of action plans and similar initiatives within the International Whale Commission as well. Brazil wishes to take this opportunity to inform that the country is considering proposing new concerted actions for the next COP. For instance, Brazil will work with other range states with a view to potentially present at the next COP new concerted actions for Amazon River dolphins and the Guiana dolphins. I will also take this opportunity, Mr. Chair, to inform that the country is currently working to enlarge the membership of this convention, including Amazonian countries, which are not yet part of this family. As part of this effort, President Lula invited Amazonian countries to attend the high-level segment last Sunday, and we will continue to do additional efforts during our presidency to really engage with those countries to bring them to this convention. Thank you very much.
Merci.
Thank you very much, Brazil. I now give the floor to Fabio or Cetacean Foundation. Thank you, Chair. Animal Welfare Institute, Born Free, the CETUS Foundation, Humane Welfare for Animals, and the Institute for the Natural Conservation of Brazil, International Fund for Animal Welfare, Pro-Wildlife, and World Wildlife Fund welcome and support firmly this concerted action that is proposed for the Lahil bottlenose dolphin. We thank the proponents for having prepared this proposal so well to conserve this unique and very threatened coastal species. It faces many and strong threats, including degradation and pollution of its habitat throughout its range, which is relatively small and restricted. Coordinated regional action is not just beneficial, it is essential. This concerted action gives us a clear and practical framework for the range states to strengthen their cooperation with CMS and the IWC to ensure that they have an action plan that will tackle these threats. We particularly welcome the strong scientific basis and the regional cooperation that is already in existence and the clear implementation. This shows that it has a high probability of being successful and having a major impact on the species. So we call on parties to provide the necessary technical and financial support so that the initiative can be effectively and rapidly implemented. So we call on parties to adopt this concerted action. Thank you. Thank you very much. I now give the floor to the IUCN.
Endorsed a CMP for this species in 2024, and the plan is strongly aligned with the proposed actions in the concerted action. It is an excellent example of the collaboration not only between the CMS and IWC, but also coordinated action of the range states of Brazil, Uruguay, and Argentina to address the threats along the coastal migration corridor of this iconic species. In addition, the actions outlined will benefit other species, such as the Franciscana dolphin, given the overlap between these two species. We therefore strongly support this concerted action. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Lucie.
Thank you very much, IUCN. WWF.
Brazil for joining and sponsoring these concerted actions, and also for announcing in its intervention now that it plans to table concerted actions at COP15 for Amazonian river dolphins. Brazil's initiative in this case and in relation to other matters at this meeting gives concrete expression to the aspirations of Resolution 14.8 on ecological connectivity. Parabéns, Brazil.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, WWF. I see no further requests for the floor. And taking into account the discussions we have heard, I consider that the committee approves this concerted action proposal. I see no objections. It is so decided. And now I call on the meeting to consider 31.3.9, which is the concerted action for the Antipodean albatross, which is already listed on Appendix 1 of the Convention. I invite New Zealand to introduce it.
Australia and Chile have proposed an updated concerted action for the critically endangered Antipodean albatross, a species already listed on Appendix 1 of the Convention. The document outlines the activities to be carried out by New Zealand, Australia and Chile over the next triennium, with the overall goal of reversing the population decline of this species. Key activities planned for this period include efforts to address the major issue of fisheries bycatch in the high seas and in range state jurisdictions, continuing research and monitoring both on land and at sea, and progressing management of breeding sites. The document highlights the need for all CMS and non-CMS range states to use effective seabird bycatch mitigation measures, especially in pelagic longline fisheries. It highlights that improved reporting of bycatch data and data sharing is needed to better refine risk assessments. There is also a need to increase our understanding of other fisheries to assess if they are impacting on Antipodean albatross. The work undertaken on Antipodean albatross will also lead to improved outcomes for many other migratory seabird species. We invite the COP to adopt this updated concerted action for Antipodean albatross. Thank you.
Thank you very much, New Zealand. Sprep, you have the floor.
And other parties on this concerted action for the critically endangered Antipodean albatross. SPREP will continue to work with our Pacific members on improving bycatch management among their fleets through development of national plans of action and through port-based outreach activities to improve mitigation uptake on fishing vessels, as well as through regional fisheries management organisations to improve bycatch mitigation measures required to reduce bycatch of Antipodean albatross and other vulnerable seabirds. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much, Sprep. ACAP, you have the floor.
Proposal and looks forward to the actions being taken by those involved.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, ACAP. I see no further requests for the floor, so I consider that the committee approves the adoption of this concerted action. I see no objections. It is so decided. And now I suggest we move to the next item 31.3.10, which is the proposal for a concerted action for the flesh-footed shearwater proposed for listing on Appendix 2 of the Convention. And I call on the proponents to New Zealand or Australia to present the document. New Zealand, you have the floor.
New Zealand and Australia have proposed a new concerted action for the flesh-footed shearwater, a species proposed for listing on Appendix 2 of the Convention at this COP. The flesh-footed shearwater is near threatened and breeds on islands off New Zealand, Australia, and the French Southern Territories of the Indian Ocean. The species migrates in the non-breeding season to the North Pacific and Northern Indian Oceans. 19 range states were consulted over the activities listed in this concerted action, which focuses on managing fisheries bycatch, considered to be the greatest risk to flesh-footed shearwater. This threat occurs across both national jurisdictions as well as on the high seas. Activities to address bycatch under this concerted action include promoting the use of effective bycatch mitigation measures in fishing operations and associated monitoring and compliance activity, improving data sharing and bycatch risk assessments, and collecting data from other fisheries such as squid jigging, where there may be a risk of bycatch or vessel collision. Other activities listed in the concerted action include implementing biosecurity measures for breeding sites so as to protect against incursion of introduced predatory mammals, and research to better understand the population dynamics and foraging behaviour of this species. Quantitative assessment of the risks from plastic pollution and climate change impacts are also included. We invite the COP
to adopt this concerted action for flesh-footed shearwaters. Thank you.
Thank you, New Zealand. ACAP, you have the floor.
This initiative, I think it's well overdue, and I think it demonstrates how these concerted action approaches within CMS can greatly stimulate conservation measures and actions for affected species.
Thank you, ACAP. I see no further request for the floor. So do I take it that the committee approves this proposal for a concerted action? I see no objections. It is so decided. And this proposal for a concerted action is approved. I now invite the meeting to consider 31.3.11, which is the proposal for a concerted action for the Peruvian or Humboldt pelican already listed on Appendix 1 and 2 of the Convention. And I invite Chile, Ecuador, or Peru to present the document. You have the floor, Peru. Thank you very much, Chair. Peru is presenting the proposal for a concerted action for the Peruvian or Humboldt pelican, already listed on Appendix 1 and 2 at COP15. This proposal has been drawn up jointly with Chile and Ecuador. The Peruvian pelican is an endemic species of the Humboldt current area, and it is essential. And we have seen changes at all levels, and it maintains primary areas of the ecosystem. The use of the guano on islands, which is accumulated on the islands, is used in a sustainable way. It supports organic agriculture in our countries and is a safe manner of maintaining our great gastronomy. The Humboldt pelican has to face very major changes in climate, in particular because of the El Niño, and it looks for colder waters. Their prey looks for colder waters, which means that it's sometimes inaccessible to the pelican. The targeted and bycatch can sometimes lead to a problem, and other thrills such as the highly pathogenic H5N1 avian influenza has had a major impact on the species with recurrent outbreaks. So over the last 50 years in Peru, we have seen the size of the pelican population diminish by at least 70% in its nesting area in the islands. The inclusion of the pelican in Appendices 1 and 2 ensured that range states would draw up a concerted action to work on conservation measures that would protect their habitats, insular, continental, and marine, and which would help to reduce the deterioration of the species. It's a tri-national plan which will include protocols and monitoring methodologies amongst Ecuador, Chile, and Peru, looking at the reproductive areas throughout its range. And we will coordinate actions with communities and authorities in each of the countries involved to reduce the threats to the species. Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much, Peru. Chile. Thank you, Chair. I will be brief. I am honored to speak on behalf of Chile to support the concerted action for the Peruvian pelican that has been presented by Peru, since it's an emblematic species of the Humboldt Current ecosystem. We have seen an extremely severe diminution of the population due to the threats that are well known, and more recently the major impact of the highly pathogenic avian influenza, which has had unprecedented impact. We are aiming to work in a coordinated, realistic and evidence-based way to these threats. And as we saw at the COP15, where we were also looking at the matters of One Health, we believe that this concerted action meets fully the criteria of the CMS. Thank you. Thank you very much, Chile. Ecuador. Thank you, Chair. We would like to thank the delegation of Peru for the presentation of this document, and we would like to express our most firm support for the adoption of this concerted action for the Peruvian pelican, an initiative that we are co-proponents of along with Chile and Peru. As has been set out, this endemic and emblematic bird is in an extremely vulnerable state due to its high levels of mortality caused by outbreaks of avian influenza, added to the phenomenon of El Niño and the threat of constant bycatch in fishing nets. For Ecuador, the protection of this species is very important. Our country is the northern limit of the range for its reproduction area, and we have colonies and nesting sites registered that are critical in the territory, in particular in the area of the Isla Santa Clara and our wildlife refuge there. That is why we support this action. Thank you. Thank you very much, Ecuador. I see no further request for the floor. May I take it that the committee approves this concerted action? I see no objections. It is so decided. The proposal for a concerted action for this species has been approved. I now call on the meeting to look at 31.3.12, which is a proposal for a concerted action for the Magellanic plover, already listed on Appendix 1 and 2 of the Convention. And I call on the proponents, Chile or Argentina, to present the document. Chile, you have the floor. Thank you very much, Chair. I am taking the floor once more to present on behalf of Chile, Argentina, the proposal for a concerted action for the Magellanic plover, one of the most threatened shorebirds. This is part of our irreplaceable heritage. It is extremely reduced and sometimes to less than 1,000 individuals. We are facing a clear reality. It's a migratory species which is listed in Appendices 1 and 2 of the Convention with a restricted range and cross-border threats. We are not just coming to you with a problem, but with a solution. This concerted action is based on recent scientific evidence. We have carried out census and prepared national plans with clear matters, clear monitoring, restoration of habitats and strengthening of international cooperation. Chile would like to highlight that this proposal is also aligned with the One Health approach under Resolution 12.6 at COP14. The conservation of the Pluvianellus socialis, or the Magellanic plover, is not just a matter for biodiversity, but it helps with ecosystem health and ensures resilience in the face of climate change, and also for humans it is beneficial. So within our national regulatory framework, the species Pluvianellus socialis is protected by our hunting law, which prohibits its capture. This proposal meets fully the spirit of the Convention, international cooperation, scientific basis, and coordinated action on migratory routes. But it also meets an urgent need. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Are there any requests for the floor? I see none. May I take it that the Committee of the Whole accepts this proposal for a concerted action? I see no objections. It is so decided. This concerted action proposal is accepted by the Committee of the Whole. I now invite you to move on to item 31.3.13, the proposal for a concerted action for the sand tiger shark, already listed on Appendix 1 and 2 of the Convention. May I invite Brazil to introduce this document?
This concerted action for the sand tiger shark aims to strengthen the regional conservation of this critically endangered species in the Southwest Atlantic, encompassing Brazil, Argentina, and Uruguay. The plan acknowledges that the species is already listed in Appendix 1 and 2 of the Convention, but continues to face severe population declines due to bycatch, illegal recreational fishing, and the degradation of coastal habitats. To address these challenges, the proposal seeks to update the Regional Conservation Action Plan and to enhance scientific and policy cooperation among range states, with particular emphasis on connectivity among key areas for reproduction, growth, and feeding. Among the priority actions are the establishment of a network of researchers, NGOs, aquariums, fishermen, government agencies, local communities, as well as the organization of technical workshops to facilitate data exchange and the joint implementation of management measures. The plan also envisages genetic and ecological research to identify subpopulations and migratory routes, along with comparative analysis of national protection policies to reduce or develop and improve collaboration management and conservation measures. Furthermore, the initiative seeks to align efforts with the CMS Memorandum of Understanding on the Conservation of Migratory Sharks, Sharks MOU, thereby strengthening regional conservation policies. The activities under these concerted actions are expected to generate direct benefit not only for sand tiger sharks, but also for other shark species that share the same habitats. Its implementation represents an important step forward in safeguarding these species and fulfilling international commitments under the CMS. Mr. Chair, I would also like to inform that following up the comments received by the Scientific Council, Brazil also provide additional information on this proposal, which are reflected in the InfoDoc 13.3.13. Thank you very much.
Merci infiniment le Brésil.
Thank you very much, Brazil. Are there any requests for the floor? Panama. Thank you very much, Chair. We thank Brazil for introducing this proposal for a concerted action, and it garners our full support. Thank you very much, Panama. Wildlife Conservation Society. Thank you very much, Chair. I'm speaking on behalf of WCS and BRACON, the Ugarte Whale Institution, the Isla Grande Institution, and Wildlife for Sharks. We wish to express our support for the concerted action of the CMS for the sand tiger shark, Carcharias taurus, of the Southwest Atlantic. This shark is already listed on Appendix 1 and 2 of the Convention since COP15. As an apex predator, it plays a key role in ensuring the balance of marine ecosystems across the shark's range. However, its population has declined by over 80% over the past decades. This proposal aims to ensure a drastic change in the status of the population in the region by fostering the implementation of effective measures for conservation in Argentina, Brazil and Uruguay. We believe that this is a first step towards preventing, mitigating and or avoiding the threats to this shark in the three countries due to commercial and recreational fishing. We welcome Brazil's proposal and we congratulate them, and we also urge other parties to support the proposal. Thank you. Thank you to Wildlife Conservation Society Uruguay. Thank you, Chair. The government of Uruguay wishes to thank Brazil for having presented this concerted action. And as a range state of this species, we are committed to working in a coordinated manner to implement this concerted action, and we fully support it. Thank you very much, Uruguay. I see no further requests for the floor. May I take it, therefore, that the Committee of the Whole accepts this proposal for concerted action? I see no objections. It is so decided. The proposal for this concerted action is accepted by the Committee of the Whole. I now invite you to move on to the consideration of 31.3.14, the proposal for a concerted action for the basking shark, already listed on Appendix 1 and 2 of the Convention. I invite Mareko to introduce this item.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Irish Basking Shark Group and the Marine Research and Conservation Foundation are pleased to present this concerted action for basking sharks, Cetrahinus maximus. Basking sharks are considered endangered globally, but there is a large gap in research on the movement, ecology, and anthropogenic threats, including fisheries impacts and vessel strikes. This concerted action lays out the need to increase research on understanding basking shark ecology, with an emphasis on international collaboration and data sharing. The concerted action highlights the needs to improve reporting on anthropogenic impacts and potential threats to basking sharks in line with obligations under regional fisheries management organizations, many of which now require the reporting of basking shark bycatch. The concerted action also urges parties to prioritize conservation actions based on the conservation needs and policy frameworks of their respective regions. In addition, the concerted action highlights the need to highlight international inconsistencies regarding legislative protections for basking sharks, to develop or refine tourism guidelines consistent with the CMS guidelines, and it encourages parties, particularly those in data-poor regions, to strengthen research and data collection efforts. The actions proposed in this concerted action will promote a more coordinated approach to research and result in a connected global understanding of the species status. Furthermore, this concerted action provides a necessary and streamlined approach to compliance with mandates under CMS and other international agreements, as well as methods of addressing persistent threats to basking sharks. This document was reviewed by the Scientific Council and has subsequently been revised. However, I would like to make a request for the Secretariat to remove a factual error. Under relevance, in the second paragraph, please strike the references to the UK and the Cayman Islands. We thank the parties and partners for their continued support and look forward to future collaboration in advancing the conservation of this highly migratory species. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam. Are there any requests for the floor on this?
Pas de demande de...
I see no requests for the floor. May I take it that the Committee of the Whole accepts this proposal for a concerted action? I see no objections. It is so decided. This concerted action is accepted by the Committee of the Whole. Distinguished delegates, dear participants, let us now move on to the consideration of item 31.3.15, the proposal for a concerted action for the blue shark, already listed on Appendix 2 of the Convention. I invite Mareko to introduce this document.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. The Marine Research and Conservation Foundation is pleased to present this proposed extension on the CMS concerted action for the blue shark, Pernalca glauca, under this COP. Despite the advances described in our report, which was Agenda Item 31.2.10, blue sharks remain one of the most exploited shark species worldwide, with significant regional declines and inconsistent management across their range. This is why we have also proposed an updated concerted action, which aims to build on this momentum by strengthening coordination across parties, RFMOs, and other relevant bodies, and by scaling up efforts in key areas. These include advancing fisheries impact assessments and mitigation, improving understanding of population structure and connectivity, identifying critical habitats, addressing climate change impacts, and supporting the development of international tourism guidelines. This work will contribute to the development of the IUCN SSC Conservation Strategy and Action Plan for pelagic sharks and rays, and strengthen alignment with the Sharks MOU and other global frameworks. Importantly, as one of the most broadly distributed pelagic sharks, improving the conservation status of blue sharks will deliver wider benefits for other migratory shark species that share similar habitats and face comparable threats. We thank the parties and partners for their continued support and look forward to continued collaboration in advancing the conservation and sustainable management of this highly migratory species. Thank you.
Merci.
Thank you very much, Mariko. Are there any requests for the floor on this? I see no requests for the floor. I consider that the Committee of the Whole accepts this proposal for a concerted action. I see no objections. It is so decided. The proposed concerted action is accepted. Now, let us move on to the last proposal for a concerted action, document 31.3.16, on the proposal for a concerted action for all species of devil and manta rays already listed on Appendix 1 and 2 of the Convention. I invite Manta Trust to please introduce this document.
On behalf of the Manta Trust, WCS and Ecuador, it is my privilege to introduce the proposal for a concerted action on the conservation of manta and devil rays. Mobulid rays are among the most iconic and threatened migratory species. Their conservative life history traits, coupled with population declines, have resulted in all 10 species being listed within the threatened categories of the IUCN Red List of Threatened Species. Despite important protective policy gains in the last 2 decades, domestic consumption of their meat and international trade in their gill plates continues to drive fisheries-related mortality. The latest research estimates global catch to be around 250,000 individuals a year across 92 countries. As a result, and despite strict protective measures, steep and accelerating population declines of more than 80% have been recorded across all species and all oceans. CMS has already taken important protective actions by listing manta and devil rays on its appendices. However, to ensure these population declines are halted, these listings alone are not enough. There needs to be concerted action to collectively address the key threats to each of these species throughout their range. This proposal, recommended for adoption by the Scientific Council, aims to do exactly that, by strengthening collaboration among range states, improving data collection and sharing, advancing research on population statuses and ecology, and supporting the development of effective conservation and management measures at the national level. This proposal also provides an opportunity to better align existing efforts under CMS with other relevant processes, and to mobilize the technical and financial support needed for implementation. Ultimately, this proposal is about moving from commitment to action, ensuring that our collective efforts urgently deliver tangible conservation outcomes for the species. We therefore invite all parties to support this proposal and to work together to secure a sustainable future for manta and devil rays. Thank you, Chair.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much for this presentation. I'll give the floor to Ecuador. We appreciate Manta Trust giving the introduction to this document. We fully support this concerted action and we urge parties to also support it. As a country which hosts the biggest population of ocean rays worldwide, we are well aware of their value but also their high vulnerability. They are highly migratory species which constantly cross our oceanic borders. Therefore, isolated actions to protect these matters, even if these measures are strict, will not be sufficient. We reiterate our long-standing commitment to protecting these species under CITES and CMS. We believe that science must guide policies. However, to ensure that these actions are functional across our oceans, we need cooperation. This is why the concerted action has been developed to support parties. We understand the major challenges faced by range states. This is why we believe that the concerted action will serve as a framework to foster international cooperation, help researchers, as well as provide technical support for policymaking. Thank you. Thank you very much, Ecuador. Are there any further requests for the floor? I see no further requests. I therefore take it that the Committee of the Whole accepts this proposal for concerted action. I see no objections. It is so decided. This proposal for a concerted action is accepted by the Committee of the Whole. As I previously stated, this was the last proposal for concerted action to be considered. It brings us to the end of our agenda, and now, as we have some time left, I suggest we come back to the conference room papers which were open for discussion this morning. May I turn to the European Union to ask whether they are in a position to discuss the relevant CRPs. Let me remind you, these are CRPs 28.1 Rev 1 on illegal and unsustainable taking of migratory species, 28.11 Rev 1 on renewable energy, and CRP 28.5 on wildlife health. The European Union has the floor.
For consultation, I'm happy to say that we can be flexible on 28.5 on wildlife health and can accept the text as it came from the working group. So apologies there for maybe not having followed that as well as we should have. But of course we will not challenge the outcome of the working group even though we have some concerns with it. So we consider it important to respect the work done, and therefore 28.5 is acceptable as it comes. On 28.11 and 28.1, we realized that basically two sides of a coin, and as if I understood well the proposal by Brazil, the offer they are making is to have the word urges both in paragraph 2 of CRP 28.11 and in paragraph 16 of CRP 28.1. So to us that compromise is acceptable to keep urges on both places. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you to the European Union. We shall consider these proposals one by one. I understand that CRP 28.5 is something you can support on the basis of what was done within the working group. I therefore take it that the Committee of the Whole accepts CRP 28.5, which shall be sent to the COP for final adoption. I see no objections. It is so decided. The document shall be sent to the COP for final adoption. I thank the European Union for your openness and your flexibility. Now, let us come back to the two remaining items, 28.1 Rev 1 and 28.11 Rev 1. The European Union's proposal is to adopt the same wording for both of these documents, that is, strongly encourages. So the proposal for CRP 28.1 Rev 1 and CRP 28.11 Rev 1, the European Union's proposal would be to use strongly encourages for both texts, if I understand correctly. Apologies. Could you please repeat?
According to us, the proposal Brazil made was that they can't accept our proposal to encourage in paragraph 16 of CRP 28.1. And we cannot accept encourages in paragraph 2 of 28.11. And the counter proposal Brazil made was that we can accept urges in both paragraphs. Not strongly encourages, but urges. In paragraph 16 of 28.1 and in paragraph 2 of 28.11. Thank you.
Yes. You have just confirmed that Brazil has understood your proposal. So it would be urges. My understanding, says the chair, is that Brazil suggested to adopt the use of urges in both texts. What are your views on this proposal?
Yes, my apologies. I believe it may get lost in translation literally here. So Brazil showed flexibility by making a proposal to have urges in both places. We consulted with the EU and we accept the Brazilian proposal. Thank you.
Voilà, donc.
Yes, that was my understanding. You support Brazil's proposal. Thank you very much, Brazil.
Just to clarify that exactly this was our proposal, and we thank the European Union for their flexibility. Thank you very much.
Merci.
Thank you very much, Brazil, and I thank the European Union for your flexibility here, which enabled us to move forward with our work. The 3 CRPs which were open for discussion this morning are accepted to be sent to the COP for final adoption, and I believe this deserves a round of applause.
À présent, distingués délégués, chers participants.
Now, distinguished delegates, there are only 2 remaining CRPs to be considered, one on the budget and one on the giraffe. 31.3.5 Rev 1. Is the committee in a position to consider 31.3.5 Rev 1 on the concerted action for the giraffe? I see no objections. I therefore suggest that we consider CRP 31.3.5 Rev 1 on the concerted action for the giraffe. South Africa has the floor.
We support the adoption with a small amendment that we have already submitted to Secretariat. It's a minor amendment on a para that talks to South Africa's legislation, which just says replacing the word under with interlia, so that it makes sense, because we have got 9 national governments. So the under word that has been put there, it insinuates that we only have 1. So we're just correcting that so that it can be captured correctly, but we support the action. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, l'Afrique.
Thank you, South Africa. Can the committee agree to this amendment? Kenya.
Under Annex 1, and I think it's a small amendment which can be worked out because Rothschild giraffe is not introduced but has been existing in Kenya since time immemorial. So I think we can look at that annex and make a small amendment. Thank you, Chair.
Le Kenya.
Thank you, Kenya. Can the committee agree to the minor amendments as proposed by South Africa and Kenya? I see no objections. May I take it the committee agrees to send the CRP under consideration with the amendments proposed to the COP for final adoption? It is so decided. This document shall be revised on the basis of the amendments proposed by Kenya and South Africa and shall be sent for final adoption to the plenary session of the COP. Thank you very much, distinguished delegates, dear participants. We have one remaining CRP, which is on the budget. Distinguished delegates, dear participants, I am informed that the annexes to the budget document are not yet online. Therefore, we are not in a position to consider this now. We shall postpone the consideration thereof to this afternoon's session.
Je donne la parole au secrétaire.
I give the floor to the Secretariat for some announcements.
Which I had announced earlier is going on at 1 p.m. There was also a slide I know that I think Brazil wanted to show, but I don't know if we can put it up now. Maybe it could come up in a few minutes if it's not up right now. But I think otherwise we're reconvening here at 3 p.m. for the budget. But
Merci beaucoup, Madame Mélanie.
Thank you very much, Melanie. Brazil.
To the committee precisely what will be in our schedule for the afternoon. Is it only the budget, or are there other outstanding items for the consideration of this committee? Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, le Brésil.
Thank you very much, Brazil. Indeed. The only outstanding item is the budget. We could have discussed this now, but unfortunately the annexes are not yet available online. That is why we will have to wait, says the chair. Distinguished delegates, dear participants, I shall give the floor to the Executive Secretary. Thank you, Chair.
There's one annex, which is an important annex to the budget document, which is the program of work. And that program of work, as we tried to do throughout the COP, is just needing to be updated because as things were changed in different rooms, we needed to just reflect those changes in the program of work. And so it's being translated so that it can be put online and then be available for this room. But that is the only annex that's missing from the package in case the room wants to proceed otherwise. So I thought that would be helpful for you to know. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much to the Executive Secretary for this information. Brazil has the floor.
Look at the provisional organization of work for this COP. We see that tomorrow, Sunday, March 29th, there was a 1-hour session of the COW that was foreseen from 9:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. My question would be to you if it would not be advisable to move the consideration of this agenda item for the tomorrow morning session, thereby allowing the Secretariat ample time to prepare the annex and delegations and to review the annex before making a rushed revision of this document in just the 2 hours that separate us, not to mention that it would also allow delegates to participate in the planting of trees and the other activities that were envisaged for the afternoon. I think it would contribute to what the Executive Secretary has been calling a happy COP. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, Brazil, for this very good proposal. I personally agree, but I'd like to see what the committee thinks. Everyone is in agreement, everyone is happy. Thank you, Brazil, for this proposal. Thank you very much, distinguished delegates and participants, for your dynamic way of working. We've really made progress. This morning has been very busy. Thank you to all for your effective commitment and the spirit of solidarity, consensus and flexibility, which has helped us to catch up on our work program. Brazil.
During the discussion of the proposal for concerted action for all species of devil and manta rays, we would like to formally support the proposal and also to state that we want to co-sponsor it. So just a point of clarification on an item that was previously discussed. And we'd like that to be included in the meeting records. Thank you very much.
Merci.
Thank you, Brazil. So, distinguished delegates and participants, today's session is adjourned and we will meet again tomorrow morning at 9:30. And I hope there will not be too much discussion on the budget CRP. Excellent work has been carried out within the working group. So today's session is adjourned and we will meet again tomorrow morning at 9:30 to cover the last item on our agenda, the budget, and then move into the COP plenary. Thank you very much. I wish everyone a wonderful afternoon and see you tomorrow. And I encourage you to participate in the tree planting ceremony so that we can make a truly happy COP here. Thank you very much and see you tomorrow.